Welcome to the Nation of History channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. In London in 1888, Joseph Merrick became known as the Elephant Man because of striking physical changes caused by a still-debated condition, possibly Proteus syndrome, a case that fueled medical and ethical debate about physical differences and social inclusion. During the Tet Offensive in 1968, Vietnamese civilians were often caught in the middle of fighting, and the work of Marine chaplains reflected humanitarian efforts amid the conflict. This episode shows how war deeply affected local people. In 1967, during a test for the Apollo 1 mission, Gus Grissom, Roger Chaffee, and Ed White died in an incident inside the spacecraft, an event that deeply marked United States space exploration and led to strict changes in safety procedures at the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. In the final months of World War II, Allied prisoners of war suffered extreme conditions at Rangoon Prison in Burma, where abuse and severe medical procedures underscored the brutality of the Asian Front in 1945. During the Battle of Normandy in 1944, the harshness of fighting was shown by heavy losses and lasting damage to service members, especially tank crews often struck by enemy fire, underscoring the battle's severity in World War II. Between 300,000 and 500,000 people died in the severe 1970 cyclone in East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, considered one of the 20th century's most impactful natural disasters and a factor that contributed to political tensions, culminating in Bangladesh's independence in 1971. In 1889, Johnstown, Pennsylvania, became the site of one of the United States' most memorable episodes when the South Fork Dam failed and caused a devastating flood, killing thousands and destroying much of the city, shaping national history. The Good Friday earthquake in Alaska in 1964 reached a magnitude between 9.2 and 9.3, becoming the second strongest ever recorded in modern history. The event caused widespread damage, changed city landscapes, and led to updates in earthquake engineering standards in the United States. The 1906 San Francisco earthquake and fire became one of the most impactful urban episodes in the United States, destroying much of the city and leaving thousands homeless, an event that pushed urban reforms and safer building standards in the region. 3 days after the Lower Johnstown disaster, one of the most emblematic 19th century United States episodes begins. The Great Johnstown Flood of 1889, an event that killed thousands, exposed urban vulnerabilities, and changed emergency policy across the country. The 1900 Galveston hurricane went down in history as the most severe natural disaster in the United States, devastating the Texas coastal city and causing thousands of deaths, which pushed future efforts in disaster prevention and response nationwide. The hurricane that hit Galveston in September 1900 is considered the most severe natural disaster in United States history, causing widespread damage and moving vessels like this dredge, found about 3.1 miles inland after the storm. In 1900, Galveston, Texas, was hit by the most severe hurricane in United States history, causing massive damage, including houses literally flipped upside down, evidence of the storm's power and the vulnerabilities of coastal cities. The 1935 Labor Day hurricane struck the Florida Keys with winds up to 185 miles per hour, becoming the most intense hurricane recorded to make landfall in the United States up to that time, severely affecting local communities, killing hundreds, and shaping the nation's natural disaster history. In 1935, Islamorada was hit by one of the most severe hurricanes in United States history, derailing trains in the area, including an evacuation train, showing how vulnerable infrastructure can be to the power of natural disasters. On May 22, 1960, the Great Valdivia earthquake struck Chile and became the strongest ever recorded, with a magnitude of 9.5, causing widespread damage and a tsunami that crossed the Pacific, highlighting the region's vulnerability to major natural events. The devastation from a disaster that killed more than 3,000 people and destroyed more than 80% of a city marks a major historical episode where rebuilding required long collective effort and redirected urban and safety policies. At various points in history, major earthquakes have been followed by large floods, multiplying damage and complicating rebuilding, as happened in Japan in March 2011, when the tsunami greatly worsened the earthquake's consequences. The so-called Pacific Ring of Fire concentrates intense earthquake and volcanic activity, leading to major tsunamis that have affected places like Chile, Hawaii, the Philippines, New Zealand, Australia, and Japan, causing severe damage and pushing international efforts for early warning systems. After World War II ended in 1945, London began rebuilding among rubble left by bombings, and Christmas 1946 marked a period of hope and recovery for families, with children watching celebrations on streets still shaped by hardship. At the start of World War II in 1939, air raid wardens played a vital role in civil defense in England, working during bombings and saving lives, including animals like the rescued kitten, a symbol of resilience and hope in hard times. In 1945, soldiers faced many logistical challenges due to bad weather that hindered tank movement, especially in the final months of World War II, making offensives harder and worsening physical and morale strain during continuous combat. During World War II in 1944, the ship Lexington served as a key aircraft carrier in Pacific operations, facing decisive battles against Japanese forces, and the crew's efficiency in emergencies was crucial to Allied success in naval warfare of that era. In 1943, during World War II, Tarawa Atoll in the Gilbert Islands became the scene of one of the Pacific's most intense battles, marking the American offensive against Japanese forces and revealing both the conflict's harshness and moments of compassion amid war. During China's Great Floods of 1931, the Yangtze Huai region suffered for more than 3 months, resulting in one of the 20th century's largest natural disasters, with millions left homeless and heavy social and economic impact, shaping China's disaster management history. During the Battle of Saipan in 1944, a decisive moment of World War II in the Pacific, soldiers endured the conflict's hardships, yet small acts of humanity, such as feeding an animal near fighting positions, offered emotional relief amid severe conditions. During the American withdrawal from Saigon in 1975, the rush to secure a seat on helicopters marked the end of the Vietnam War, symbolizing the United States pullout and the fall of the Allied government, an event that deeply changed Southeast Asian geopolitics. During the Battle of Hamburger Hill in 1969, American soldiers faced intense fighting in the Vietnam War, marking one of the conflict's harshest episodes, and it highlighted both the brutality of war and growing criticism of United States involvement. During the Vietnam War in 1966, medic Thomas Cole stood out by helping an injured Marine even while he himself was weak, showing the dedication of American troops in that intense, prolonged conflict. During the Vietnam War in 1967, many churches were turned into hospitals and improvised support centers, reflecting intense fighting and poor medical conditions for soldiers, symbolizing the conflict's humanitarian impact in the region. In 1944, during World War II, the use of gas masks by soldiers and even dogs reflects the constant fear of chemical attacks, a legacy of World War I that strengthened troop preparedness and protection alongside advances in military technology. In the Cold War context, advances like Harold Edgerton's 1952 photograph capturing the start of an atomic test helped document the scale of these weapons and expanded global debate about nuclear arsenals and the dangers tied to them. During World War I in 1917, Manfred von Richthofen became known as the legendary Red Baron, credited with 80 confirmed aerial victories and becoming one of aviation's greatest aces, a symbol of technological progress and air combat in war. During World War I in 1917, the German airship L-49 came down in Bourbon-les-Bains, France, marking a significant loss for German air operations, since zeppelins played a strategic role in reconnaissance and missions over enemy territory. During World War I in 1917, the use of improvised life vests made from mattress-like materials represented an effort by navies to protect sailors amid growing danger from naval attacks at sea, marking advances in maritime safety. During the 19th century, China's penal system used public punishments, such as the canggui, a heavy wooden collar fastened around a sentenced person's neck, often displayed in public to shame, discourage wrongdoing, and reinforce imperial authority. In 19th century China, public punishments such as being displayed in a wooden canggui were common, serving as humiliation and a warning to society, especially when the offense was shown to everyone, reinforcing moral rules set by the imperial government. In the 1970s, cases of unattended children gained visibility in the United States, leading police departments, such as the Los Angeles Police Department, to improvise emergency solutions to ensure immediate care for found newborns, reflecting urban social challenges of the time. In 1931, public demonstrations like the New York Police Department showcase of bullet-resistant glass illustrated key advances in urban safety, reflecting a growing search for protection amid rising violence linked to prohibition in the United States. John Minnock is recorded in history as the heaviest human ever documented, reaching an astonishing 1,400 pounds, a notable fact in global medical history for highlighting issues around obesity and public health in the 20th century. This figure is still referenced in historical studies. In the late 19th century, the religious figure known as Father Damien dedicated his life to the leprosy colony of Molokai in Hawaii, staying with the sick until he contracted the illness and died in 1889, becoming a worldwide symbol of compassion and humanitarian service. Junior Racers Day at Tacoma Speedway in 1914 illustrates enthusiasm for youth auto racing in the early 20th century, a time when racing grew in popularity in the United States, encouraging technical development and competitive spirit among young people and local communities. During construction of the Delaware Memorial Bridge in 1951, workers raised a truss 160 feet above the water, a landmark of major post-war United States infrastructure projects that boosted regional integration and eased travel between New Jersey and Delaware. In 1961, the construction of the Berlin Wall intensified the Cold War, symbolizing Europe's east-west divide by separating East and West Berlin, sharply restricting movement and reinforcing Soviet influence over Eastern Europe. During World War I, around 1914, Amiens Cathedral was carefully protected with sandbags, reflecting France's effort to preserve crucial cultural heritage under heavy bombardment, a common practice to safeguard historical treasures during the conflict. During World War II, in 1944, the crew of the B-29 bomber known as Waddy's Wagon stood out by restoring its famous nose art, a strong cultural expression among wartime air crews that boosted morale and symbolized each squadron's identity. In 1930, workers cleaned the famous statue atop the Old Bailey, London's central criminal court, known for historic trials in British justice, reflecting careful preservation of symbolic landmarks during the years between the wars. In the early 1920s, Paris went through a period of rebuilding and hope after the trauma of World War I, and it was common to see children playing freely in neighborhood streets, reflecting both the city's vitality and the steady impact of urbanization reshaping those spaces. In early 1930s, Wales, many miners faced harsh and unhealthy working conditions, shown by the home ritual of bathing after a shift, reflecting families' dependence on the coal industry and the era's social hardship. In 1931, American society was shaped by the Great Depression, an economic crisis that began in 1929 and deeply affected daily life, leading people to improvise creative and unusual solutions, including using cars in unexpected ways for getting around. In the early 20th century, New York became a symbol of urban modernization through skyscraper construction, which defined the city skyline and drew workers searching for opportunity, marking the rise of vertical architecture in the United States. In 1955, Chicago was in a period of urban and cultural change, marked by post-war economic growth and the city's energy as a center of architectural innovation, with skyscrapers symbolizing the era's American optimism. In 1949, Coney Island was one of the United States' main popular leisure spots, symbolizing renewed post-war optimism as families gathered in large numbers to enjoy freedom and summer refreshments, strengthening social bonds. In the early 20th century, Coney Island in New York stood out as a stage for sports experiments such as auto polo in 1910, reflecting growing fascination with the automobile and a search for extreme entertainment during the industrial age. During World War II in 1944, Allied soldiers were in Rome after the city was liberated from German regime control, highlighting the Italian capital's strategic importance, and their presence symbolized hope for the Allied push back into Western Europe. During the Victorian era, curious technological innovations appeared to solve transportation challenges, as shown by the concept of a wheeled mechanical vehicle exploring alternatives before the automobile became widespread, anticipating electric personal mobility trends in the next century. In London in 1908, firefighters using a smoke helmet illustrates the development of personal protective equipment during the Industrial Revolution, a time when innovations aimed to save lives and reduce risks in increasingly frequent urban fires. The Signet rear car appeared in 1913 as a clever solution to turn motorcycles into family vehicles. The accessory allowed Harley-Davidson and Indian models to carry up to 3 extra passengers with a quick-release system that took only 30 seconds. In 1925, the use of child seats on bicycles began gaining popularity in cities like Amsterdam, reflecting the Dutch tradition of sustainable urban mobility. And this period marks the bicycle's consolidation as everyday transportation in the Netherlands. In the 1950s, it was common for babies to travel on airplanes in small hanging bassinets, reflecting safety standards that were still basic in air travel, which later pushed international rules for child protection on commercial flights. After the war, New Zealand towns such as Opawa sought to match public transportation with family needs, shown in 1950 by storing baby strollers on buses, reflecting advances in urban mobility and social inclusion for mothers. In 1949, a promotional event brought together a stagecoach and an American Airlines DC-3 airplane to highlight the historic shift in United States mail transport, symbolizing the technological progress commercial aviation brought to airmail service. In 1960, the shift toward farm mechanization still existed alongside traditional methods in many rural areas. Strong draft horses remained essential for pulling heavy plows and seeders, allowing farmers to work freshly turned soil. In the 1950s, London strengthened its role as a European cultural center, and places like zoos were popular with families and children, reflecting growing post-war interest in science education and a push to value knowledge and childhood curiosity. In the 1930s, classic cars like the Jaguar SS2 Coupe and the Chevrolet Roadster symbolized technological progress in European transportation during recovery after the Great Depression, also reflecting urban modernization in cities like Utrecht in the Netherlands. In 1936, during the filming of Modern Times, Charlie Chaplin and Paulette Goddard led one of the silent era's most emblematic works, exposing the industrial workers' struggles and questioning the era's unchecked technological push. Humphrey Bogart wore platform shoes in scenes of Casablanca to offset the height difference with Ingrid Bergman, who was about 1 inch taller, a notable production detail from this classic film released during World War II. By 1933, Amelia Earhart was already an aviation icon, a pioneer who encouraged young people, especially girls, to believe in their dreams and pursue a place in aviation during a time when women faced major social and professional barriers. In 1959, France lived through a period of social rebuilding and prosperity under the Fifth Republic, marked by economic gains and cultural change. Everyday scenes reflected a search for normal life and simple joy after hard post-war years in Europe. In 1856, the Abu Simbel Temple in Egypt, dedicated to Ramesses II, stood as one of the greatest examples of Egyptian pharaoh power during the New Kingdom, carved directly into rock in the 13th century before Christ. Preserving it is essential to understanding ancient Egypt's monumental art. In 1935, Ferdinand Porsche presented the Volkswagen Beetle design to the German leader, a car commissioned by the German government as a symbol of modernization and political promotion, later leading to the Beetle's worldwide popularity after the war. In 1890, Charlestown High School included gymnastics classes in its curriculum, reflecting a late 19th century trend of adding physical education in United States schools as part of a national movement to promote health, discipline, and citizenship among youth. During excavations in 2009, archaeologists identified a Murmillo gladiator helmet about 2,000 years old in the gladiators' quarters at Pompeii, bearing witness to combat practices that entertained Roman society shortly before Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 after Christ. In 1900, the end of Galveston's so-called Golden Era was marked by a catastrophic disaster, leading worried investors to shift their focus to Houston, which soon became the region's new economic hub and sped up its growth and development. In 1960, the presence of Ferrari's transporter at the Dutch Grand Prix in Zandvoort illustrates the peak of Formula One's golden era, when European teams solidified tradition and technology, marking the start of Italian teams' dominance in top-level racing. Over the centuries, markets like Ravivar Bazaar in Ahmedabad became vital centers of regional trade in India, bringing together handmade goods, tools, and cultural life, elements that helped shape modern Indian cities and their everyday economy. In 1967, during a test for the Apollo 1 mission, Gus Grissom, Roger Chaffee, and Ed White died in an incident inside the spacecraft, an event that deeply marked United States space exploration and led to strict changes in safety procedures at the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. In 1925 in London, the Aquila Serre Ladies Fire Brigade stood out during a firefighters competition, reflecting women's progress into traditionally male roles after World War I and marking an important step in the fight for gender equality in the United Kingdom. In 1910 in Montreal, young Billy Van Horn appears beside a pedal car and teddy bears, reflecting urban life and the rise of factory-made toys in the Edwardian era, marked by growing modernization and the rise of Canada's middle class. Indigenous people in Oregon present a ceremonial salmon to the engineer of a modern streamlined train in 1940. The meeting highlights the contrast between ancestral traditions and fast railroad technology in the United States. This cultural exchange unfolds on tracks that run through native lands. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg share a goodbye kiss through the barred window of an official vehicle in 1951. Accused of leaking information at the height of the Cold War, they became the focus of one of the most controversial trials in the United States. The political tension of the era shaped the defining outcome of their marriage. Soviet soldiers offer food and care to a helpless child during fighting on the Eastern Front of the major conflict of the 20th century. Amid the destruction of the time, moments of humanity between uniformed troops and vulnerable civilians became rare records of compassion. The scene reflects how deeply the conflict affected childhood. Workers rest on the suspension cables of the St. John's Bridge in Portland during the final stage of construction on June 13, 1931. The imposing steel Gothic structure over the Willamette River reflects the challenges of civil engineering and the working conditions of the American labor force during the Great Depression. A man on a camel poses in front of the massive engines of a Soyuz rocket in Kazakhstan during the 1980s. The visual contrast highlights the meeting of steppe traditions with peak Soviet aerospace technology at the Baikonur Cosmodrome during that era. Comedian Eric Sykes operates a satirical contraption inspired by 19th century ideas to shave several people at the same time. The set recreates a Victorian barbershop with signs promising speed and safety. Filmed in the mid-1960s, the scene uses humor to poke fun at the mechanization of modern life. During World War II in 1941, workers at Britain's Ministry of Supply installed the main gun on a Matilda tank, a vehicle crucial in the conflict's early campaigns. Mass production highlighted the United Kingdom's industrial mobilization in the face of the German regime threat. If you enjoyed this video and want to support the channel, please use the Super Thanks tool below. Your contribution helps us keep bringing you amazing historical content. Thank you so much for your support, and see you in the next video.